welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
I'm Erin.
He's
Larry.
Jim. I'm eating a cookie.
And I'm Josh. Today we're going to be going over a short story from a revolutionary feminist writer in Kate Chopin. And the story we're going to be discussing is The Storm. The topic at hand is going to be how close a comparison do you feel can be made between the storm created by nature and that created by humanity? Charlie?
Excuse me. The storm created by nature, obviously. Let's go with the man-made with humanity here. When forgive me, I don't forget the character who comes over, and I don't think that Alec, was that his name?
Alce.
Excuse me.
Alce.
Alce. Thank you. When he comes over, he does something naughty. He does something very naughty during the storm. Now, that could also, that can make a storm in itself going on. Okay, I'm not going to say what, but I think a lot of you know what I'm alluding to. And connecting that to humanity, honey, oh my God, you son of a, I'm not going to go any further. What are you doing with,
Her husband never caught.
Well, I know, I'm saying, but that's if it were, yeah. But there have been the cases in the past where people have been caught in the act, like I'm being caught in the act right now. I'm eating a cookie on camera. If my doctor's watching this, no, he wouldn't. But still, that, and that's going to tear your entire marriage apart. Honey, he just came back. Who? You've known him for how long? Stuff like that. And, of course, that right there, you have a mini storm in the family. The house is being battered by wind, rain. I think it was since 2 years since they had a good rain.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, this is... it's two storms in one, as what I like to say.
Okay, so you're comparing the physical storm to the storm of like a tumultuous, like
yes. You can also,
Okay, so I see it as the events of her life and the pressure put on her by society is the same as like the pressure in like the air, and both of them culminate and result in the storm and the falling out of her, promise to her husband. And both of them were kind of natural cause of events and just unavoidable.
Mm-hmm.
And storms are
how I see it too.
Okay.
On the other hand, you want to say something, Larry?
No, I was just agreeing with Erin. I think that she kind of hit the nail on the head there.
Mm-hmm.
She thinks.
Right? Because the storm is...
you can't
it's
stop
powerful,
the storm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's powerful. It's a force of nature.
And lust is also very powerful.
Yeah, and it's also a force of nature.
Yeah.
So
On the other hand, they're both engaged in affairs, but we get a greater glimpse at Calixta's side of the story because we get so much more detail about Boban and his son Bibi, because it begins with them at the Friedhammer's little market, and he's getting her shrimp,
Her favorites.
which
She loves
we develop a sense of sympathy for them. And with Alce, all we get from Clarice is him writing to her and her accepting everything that's going on. We don't get an idea as to what her life is like. So Kate Chopin does an interesting job making it so that we are led to think a certain way.
Yeah.
kind of like we're examining the male response or the male ignorance of an affair and not the female.
To a great degree, that's the way that we're perceiving it, because it's very much he's coming to her house. The storm's taking place while the affair is going on.
Yeah.
The affair has ended by the time
The storm's over.
the storm is over. And everything is, Bobent and Bibi come in at that time, away from Friedhammer's, and everything's as cheerful as it was before, like nothing's ever happened.
Yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
when the storm dissipates or passes,
The sun comes out.
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, I'll always have some cake in my system. Tomorrow,
And isn't that what life is like in many cases?
Mm-hmm.
having cake.
The whole the idea that the sun is still going to shine even through depressing events.
And thus, technically, the sun will always shine because if there are clouds, it is still just sun is still there, but those clouds are just hiding the sun.
Yeah, granted, the affair's already happened. It's
Yeah,
not
well,
like things may be
that's sun.
things
That's
may be
yeah.
happy and cheerful, but things still happen.
Yeah, it's whether if they find out, are they going to forgive, or are they going to say, or is she going to have the
Or are they going to? Or is it just going to be one of those things that just passes on without consequence?
Mm-hmm. Did anybody get the chance to read At the Cadian Ball?
I did.
Right. How do you feel that did that change your view any?
Yeah, because initially it's hard to rationalize her motives because any average person, when you ask them, is an affair ever okay? No. Typically, if you're not happy in a relationship, you want to discuss that with your husband or wife or whatever.
significant other? Yeah.
And the backstory is that Cordixta? Calixta, I'm mixing two characters' name. Calixta and not Ars, not Ace, Alce. Calixta and Alce had previous relations, and they were kind of like, they didn't know each other that well, but when they were together, they were just like in this fury of passion, and people talked about it, and it was frowned upon, and in this like society where everything is what others view you as and what your status is in society, she couldn't go with him. She had to go with the rational option, and he had to go with the rational option of his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like if this was a modern day relationship, they would just get together. But since the times were what they were, they went with what made sense and what was acceptable. And that's the reason why they feel justified in...
Or they would
cheating.
settle and things wouldn't go as well.
Yeah.
Honey, the storm
Right.
scared me. The thunder made me nervous.
But I think that it's definitely, I think it really, reading At the Cadian Ball really changed my impression.
I didn't read
The
it.
fact that as much as Bobent was, I felt that while he's first seen in Cadian Ball as being a bit awkward, he's a good guy, a good, likable, caring guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he may not be the material. He may not be the way that Alce is with regard to his charm and his likability. It's kind of like
He's kind of like a dope. Like he's
to
like
some
a dopey character that is just, oh, you love me, you want to get married? Okay, yeah, I love you too, we'll get married. Like he's very innocent and ignorant, and you have to feel sympathy toward him.
You mean Bobent?
Yeah, Boban.
Yeah, I think he's perceived that way in Cadian Ball. I think that in the Storm he's perceived a bit more. He's perceived differently.
Yeah, slightly, yeah.
And
Well, in this story, he just seems like he's the only thing that he cares about is his wife, right? Like he just wants to get home to her, and he doesn't want to upset her.
yeah, I would say that's the case. And
Well-
he has a son with him, so
Yeah.
and I have a great amount of sympathy for his son too, just for
Yeah, 'cause
nature.
he's
It's a 4-year-old boy.
born into this, and
So you think that Kalexka and Bowman are happily married?
I think Bobent is pretty content. I think Calixta feels a sense of distaste, or she's not satisfied.
What about you, Erin?
Yeah, I agree. I think she's just like, oh well, I gotta get married. I gotta have this life. He's nice to me and he loves me, so I guess this will work. But she doesn't feel passionate about him. In the backstory, she's like, all right, you said you wanted to marry me, right? Let's get married then. And he's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, don't kiss me now. Like she's not physically or romantically attracted to him. It seems like she just is accepting of the fate that as a woman I need to get married, and
She has to go along with
she
everything.
has to go along with it.
So what are the obstacles in the backstory that keep her from marrying the other guy?
Well, the other guy's other love interest shows up at the ball, and she's like, "There's an emergency at home. You gotta go." And he gets up and like without even like looking at Calixta, it's like, "Oh, I gotta go." And she's like, "Okay, you just leave me like that? All right, hey, you want to get married now?" Like, so she does it out of spite, really. And
Or just because she's sick of not being thought of by that other guy.
That too.
So that's interesting because then that kind of shows the ending too, right? Which is like pretty much the continuation of that, right? Where she's with her family and then putting on, I guess, this face kind of, and then he writes a letter to his wife, and it's I'm not sure where I'm going with that. Never mind.
The Storm is it's a sequel, though it's a soft sequel. It can be read as separate text, even though Chopin herself suggested that both of them be read together. I only figured that one out days before we met to speak about it, but I'm really glad that I did because there's a greater understanding, and I think that anybody looking to approach the Storm should also read At the Cadian Ball, especially if they want to know why, because you don't get a lot of that in literature.
Yeah. I'm going to have to read it.
I have it linked to our discussion, or to the discussion message.
I'll get on that as soon as I can.
Sounds good. And by that time...
Speaking of good, these cookies are delicious.
Okay. How strong your sponsorship is. Any final thoughts?
I'm hungry.
I just thought it was interesting, right? What's the last line of the story? Everybody was happy.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's why I think like
It is odd that there can be no consequence from that situation. But if she isn't truly in love with her husband, then she doesn't feel like complete guilt. But I'm sure at some level she has to feel some sort of,
I mean, you just violated your marriage, Mike.
But she has love for her child, presumably, and for the father of her child. It might not be, the romantic type of love that you want to make the whole thing perfect.
Now,
but in the end, I mean, who's to say? It seems odd, but you don't know. This kind of thing can happen all the time. The only people that are going to know aren't going to tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
At least the ones that get away with it.
Here's a plot twist. What if he was at the bar, or in this case, the saloon, with the kid?
What if he was painted in a negative light?
Yeah.
Then it would be rationalized.
Exactly. Well, you're always at the bar and you bring the kid with you. He's got darts sticking out of his eyes. Well, I thought he was a target, Mom.
There are so many factors that could have changed the way that we look at this, but Kate Chopin did a good job making it so that we look at things differently and very much a contrast from status quo. Probably it could have very well been the reverse, where we look at
with the wife,
where we look at Alce's point of view, but as opposed, we look at Alce going home to his wife and kids. But they speak a lot about affairs from the male point of view, the man cheating on the woman, which that is present in this case, but in this case, both sides are engaged.
The only thing I'm cheating on is my diet.
Both people, and it's interesting that we look at the female's family, in this case, Calixta.
Well, they're around, right? Like, I mean, that might be part of his motivation too. Is he's just bored. I mean, why does he come calling in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's just like, and that was what he used to do when she wasn't married. So maybe he just figures, that's still going on.
Yes, indeed. I'll leave a link down below to where you can find the story. And as always, whenever we have Erin on our show, Erin is going to read a poem
Yay!
that she herself has written.
Glasses. When you have shit vision, you don't know you have shit vision until you buy your first pair of glasses and walk outside. Leaves. Individual leaves. Did you know that you could see the individual leaves on the trees and that it's not just a blur of green, and that signs could be read from all the way down the street, and that at night the stars are really pretty? Things that I didn't used to pay attention to were suddenly now entirely worthy, and some things that I once thought were worth looking at in their detailed form became ugly to me. Even my own reflection transformed with uneasy awareness but acceptance. The world is different when you see it with accuracy. Falling in love with you feels a lot like seeing the world with my first pair of glasses.
Amazing.
I like that.
I do
Thank
too.
you.
Poetry is quite something. I'll have to definitely, when your poetry collection comes out, because of a copy,
I'm trying to make books soon. I don't know when, but soon.
I'll be a customer
Thank you.
already. And we'll leave links down below to where you can find Erin's YouTube channel and her poetry. Thank you for tuning in to this video. I hope you subscribe and join us for more episodes of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.